Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. This is where we discuss everything business fundamentals in our agricultural fraternity right here in Zimbabwe. Now, in line with the Horticultural Recovery Plan that is being pushed by our government through the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, we are going to be looking at tomatoes production, beginning with the greenhouse setup up to the open field setup. You would find that in our geographical locations, not every farmer does have the capabilities to have greenhouse infrastructure set at his farm, but he can still be a farmer and be profitable in his ventures, be it open field, and even if he manages to do his greenhouses. To discuss this and more, I've taken the liberty of inviting Beauty Magia. She is a horticulture expert working with Seedco, the marketing manager, vegetables division. Beauty, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Adza.
Now, as we get into our discussion, Beauty, we are beginning with the greenhouse setup. We'll also go to the open field. But at this point in time, we want to discuss the setup of this greenhouse. Maybe a brief background of these tomatoes. When were they established? How long have they been here? Maybe the modes of irrigation or whatever that you are using in this greenhouse setup.
Okay, thank you so much. For me, I'll start by saying greenhouse are tried and tested. And me as a farmer, as an agronomist, I would say I've got passion for greenhouse production, because once you venture into greenhouse production, you are guaranteed of high yield, high quality, and having the superb product on the market. So looking at this greenhouse where we are standing currently, we have got tomatoes which were planted on the 12th of February, and I can say they are almost plus 4 months. And we started harvesting on our day 90, and these varieties, they are the varieties that we say they are indeterminate varieties. And we are saying these varieties, Wadza, once you plant them, you start harvesting, but still at the end of the day, you still have got some flowers. They keep on growing depending on the management that you are giving those crops. So under Seedco vegetables, we have got Oasis and Candela in the basket of our greenhouse tomato. So for greenhouse production, we are saying a farmer can do your cropping throughout the year. Type of irrigation that you have to use, definitely you are looking at your drip irrigation in the greenhouse. And we are saying to farmers, definitely when you want to have that good tomato, go for greenhouse production.
Thank you so much, Beauty. That was very detailed. I like that you spoke to the varieties that you have in here, and also the fact that in as much as you'll be harvesting, you are still having flowering, and you can look furthermore to more harvests. Now, moving away from that a bit, Beauty, you would find that the mode of irrigation that you might be having in greenhouses might be different from the one that you might use in open field. Can you talk to us in terms of water application regimen within the greenhouse?
So looking at the greenhouse, what the number one factor is, because you're talking of indeterminate varieties which grow taller, and you can even have a tomato keeping it for about 9 months. Definitely when you're looking for your drip lines, you should make sure that your emitters are giving you enough water. So we encourage farmers to make sure that they go and talk with their irrigation suppliers. But usually for our drip line, we are encouraging farmers to have emitters at least giving them 2 liters per hour. Some might give them 4 liters, which is also good for the farmer. It means they'll irrigate for a shorter period. But to me, I would say most of the farmers who are successful currently, they are looking at their 2 liters per hour emitters when it comes to their drip lines.
Thank you so much. Now, Beauty, you would find that we spoke of harvesting, but at the same time having flowers. So in terms of fertilizer application, how does it work? Because at times when we are harvesting generally in our cropping enterprise, there is no way you are going to be coming with fertilizer at the same time harvesting. But in this instance, you are harvesting, but at the same time you have flowers. How does it work when it comes to fertilizer regimen application? What maybe fertilizers do you use in greenhouses?
Okay, so when it comes to greenhouse production, we are looking at a farmer coming in, firstly with your trenching. So you take your soils for soil analysis, you get your recommendation on the fertilizers that you need to use, but we recommend farmers to make sure that their plowing depth is beyond 45 centimeters. We encourage them to come in with their trenching. Remember, when you're talking of greenhouse, it's a 200 square meter, 300, maybe at most it's 1,000 square meter. So you can really do your things up to spec. So you come in with your trenching, you put your manure, you put your compound C. Some farmers will require to lime their soils depending on the results that you have. And we are saying to farmers, you might come in with at least 3 layers, so that as your root zone is going down, at least in each layer, it is meeting some manure and also some fertilizers. Then once you have done that, maybe for your next 3 weeks, After transplanting, you're coming in with your ammonium nitrate, which is your top dressing. It's cup number 5. Then after that, you're now alternating your calcium nitrate and your potassium nitrate. Thereby, you're looking at encouraging the quality of your fruit as well as your fruit production. We also encourage them to come in with some foliar fats, which encourages flowering as well as making sure that your growth habit and also your biostimulants, which most of these companies are selling. So what happens, Wadza, with your greenhouse production? It's one crop that I love. It comes to the good agronomic practices. This is whereby you do your best and you get the best out of it. So your fertilizer application, definitely you have to maintain your weekly application, alternating your calcium and your potassium. Once you have started harvesting, we are looking at a farmer who come in at once, you harvest your crop, so you are harvesting from your semi-ripe tomatoes to your fully ripe tomatoes. After that, you come in, you do your rotational sprays. That is, whether you're coming in with a fungicide or you're coming in with a pesticide, then you come in with your fertilizers. Then it will give you about 3 to 4 days, waiting also for the chemical to be washed away from your plant, and at the same time, your fertilizers to be working in your plant. So alternatively, you would find that those greenhouse farmers, once they are putting their fertilizers, putting their chemicals, they make sure that you're harvesting, your fertilizer and chemical application follows your harvesting.
Now, Beauty, as we close this segment, I would like you to talk to our farmers in terms of investing in greenhouses. I would like to believe that generally, if you look at probably the quality you're going to get from greenhouses, not to preempt our segment in terms of open field, it's going to be different. Can you talk to our tomato farmers in Zimbabwe and encourage them to invest in greenhouse infrastructure when we are talking of proper or good tomato production?
Yeah, so my main encouragement was when it comes to greenhouse production, we are saying your investment in greenhouse, your return is 1:5 or 1:6. Number one factor is you can do your production throughout the year. For example, your tomatoes during winter, those areas which you've got cold temperatures or cold nights, it means you can't do tomato production. But once you've got a greenhouse, you are able to do any crop. So I encourage farmers to say this is a controlled environment, Water. Those farmers who are fighting tutor on the open field in the greenhouse, it's at least manageable, because remember, I can close my curtains, close my doors, and make sure that I'm guarding my crop jealously. So I would say to most of the farmers, me, Wadza, being a young woman, I believe in using any space that I have around me. Yes. Let's assume you're staying in Harare and you've got a 300 square meter space outside your house. Why not invest into greenhouse? You can wake up in the morning, do this before 8, before you go to work, and at 5 you come back, you've got only one person who is helping you with greenhouse production. So to me, it's more of an additional income or a transition which can change you to be a better farmer tomorrow, going to do 100 hectares of tomatoes.
Thank you so much, Beauty. That was very detailed. On that note, we've come to the end of the first segment where we're looking at tomato production under greenhouse conditions. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers. You are watching Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now, today's episode was anchored on looking at the differences between production within a greenhouse and open field. We are looking at tomato production here in Zimbabwe in line with our horticultural recovery plan. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore. It's on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments. They are most important to us. Our YouTube channel is Agribusiness with Wadzanai. You can also feature on our Twitter timeline at Agribusiness110. We are always posting on a daily basis on our routines and various updates. In this very segment, we are going to be looking at tomato production, but in open field. Beauty, we are in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, I want us to look at pests and diseases that might be a nuisance within a tomato enterprise, given that I understand that we're looking at it from a greenhouse perspective, but now we are standing within an open field. What are those pests and diseases that are a nuisance in tomato production?
What I can say is, with tomato farmers, you should embrace for your chemical application, on-point chemical application. But the advice that I can give all farmers is, a seed house like ours, Seedco Vegetables, we have got agronomists across the country. Chemical companies, again, they've got agronomists across the country, as well as fertilizer companies. So what does a clever farmer do? You make sure that you've got the contact of your seed house agronomist, chemical agronomist, as well as fertilizer agronomist. So for those farmers who are doing open field production, number one rule is make sure that you've got a robust chemical program before you embark on transplanting your tomatoes. So what I can say when it comes to pests, the most difficult pest that farmers are fighting with right now is your tuta absoluta. So you find most of the farmers, we encourage them to say, soon after transplanting on your week 3, come in with your tuta traps. And these traps will help you to see the number of pheromones. You put your pheromones on your trap, and it will help you to attract the male tuta flies to the pheromone. So you can now see how many tuta adults you have in your plants. And remember, Wadza, when it comes to tuta, you've got your egg, you've got your larva, you've got your adult. So a clever farmer, what do? You come in, you do your scouting, you make sure that you identify whether it's an egg, it's a larva, or it's the fly. Whenever you go to your chemical companies, what they will ask you is, do you have a larva stage? Do you have the egg stage? Do you have the adult? So once you say the stage that you're being affected by your tuta, they'll give you the right chemical. Remember, if you say you've got the egg, yet it is the larva, you come and spray the wrong chemicals. But remember, as I said, there is a routine pesticide that you need to be spraying on a weekly basis. When it comes to your diseases, I would say there are a lot of diseases, but the diseases that farmers are fighting currently are your late and the early blights. So what a farmer needs is to make sure that you're coming in with your fungicide spray on your tomatoes on your weekly basis, rotating the different fungicides that you get from different chemical companies. But to mention one thing, Wadza, why do you need a robust spraying program? Remember, if I'm just to come to you and Wadza and say, I've got tuta, you might give me a chemical with a different name, but the active ingredient is the same. So you might end up spraying the same thing over and over again, and you will see, I'm not fighting the problem, nothing is changing. It's because you're not working with a chemical company. So with tomatoes, chemical companies should be your best friend.
Okay, thank you so much, Beauty. You would find that generally farmers end up having a love-hate relationship with cropping because of diseases and pests that eat into their profits. Now, Beauty, where we are standing in the greenhouse, we're also having a bit of trellising, and their plants were tall. But here we also have trellising, though it is short. Can you talk about the advantages or the importance of trellising in commercial tomato production?
So when it comes to open field production, that's a bonus that farmers get, because number one, we have got varieties which are non-trellised, those that you just grow and then you don't need to trellis. For example, you're looking at your HTX14, your Petra Rosa, your Amul. You don't need to trellis, you just plant them as they are. Then you've got what we call the determinate tomatoes, which you're seeing here, Wadza. They go up to about 1.2 meters. These varieties, you don't need to prune, but the type of trellising that you come up with what we call your box trellising, where you are holding your crop on the side so that it doesn't fall. But in the groundhouse, if you checked, it was like we had trellised per stem.
Yes.
So it was each stem trellised going up. You need a wire on top. But with this one, it's more box. You're just making sure you're picking your tomatoes on the side. And also, what I remember, this will give you a wide range when you're doing your open food production. You can come in with your blocky varieties which are suitable for processing, and usually processing companies would have a contract for you, which means you've got already an off-taker and you know the price that you're going to sell your tomatoes for. But in the greenhouse, definitely you're just going for your fresh market. So this will give you many options when you're doing your open field. So I would say open fields are very important, and sometimes you find that the production that you do in the open field, besides having a heavy cost on your chemicals, in terms of trellising management, it becomes a bit cheaper as compared to the greenhouse production.
Okay, let us talk about weed management. Given that this is open field, generally you are going to have encounter situations of weeds, because when you irrigate, then you are going to be inviting weeds. That's
Yes.
natural in farming.
Yeah.
Can we talk about weed management within an open field of tomato?
So looking at open field, Wadza, usually we encourage our farmers to come in with herbicides. The herbicides that I usually encourage farmers to use are the pre-emergence herbicide or the pre-transplanting herbicides. So you come in, you do your land prep. After that, you come in with your herbicides before transplanting. Why? I always believe that when I'm eating my tomato, I don't want a tomato with any chemicals. Okay. But when you come in late with your herbicides, remember, sometimes I'm just using my tomato as a salad. I'm not even cooking it. So it means that I need a chemical-free tomato. So it is very important for farmer to use a caution of using herbicides prior transplanting than to come in with herbicides, let's say on your day 60, and you're only left maybe with 15 days post-harvest. Then also remember, once you do your pre-transplanting herbicides, we also encourage you to come in even with hand walling, because with your tomato, there is spacing that you have in between your rows that can allow a farmer to come and do hand walling. But once you start trellising your tomatoes, especially your box trellising, it means some of the weeds won't be able to grow because now the tomato will be covering the young weeds.
Okay.
Yes.
Finally, Beauty, as we close this segment, can you talk to our Zimbabwean growers, tomato growers, and encourage them in terms of the fact that they can still remain viable and profitable within their ventures? It's not always about greenhouses.
To me, what I can say to that farmer is you are looking at consistent and large acreages. Open field allows you to go for large acreages. Farmers in Mutoko Wadza, they're even going up to 5 hectares of tomatoes. And I talked about the untrellising varieties that we have, which means you're just coming in, you're planting your tomato, you're just spraying and putting fertilizers, and at the end of the day, you go to the market. And always remember, Wadza, the larger the hectarage, the more the money. Yes. So I'm still to come across a 10-hectare greenhouse of tomatoes. So usually when it comes to greenhouses, you'd find that the space is quite small where farmers are doing their production. And also, Wadza, I'm saying you've got a wide range. For example, you can choose to do your processing tomatoes where I know I've got the contract, I'll be selling my tomatoes at so much and my yields is X. I can calculate my return. And also at the same time, I can still come back and compete with the greenhouse farmer when it comes to the quality of the tomato. Okay. Because the varieties that we are offering farmers like the Daisy, it have got a long shelf life and it is very firm. So that to the extent that when you do it properly, you put the correct fertilizers, you spray it well, when you hold the greenhouse tomato and the open field tomato, sometimes you won't see the difference. Okay. And also the fact number one that I like about open field production, once I come in, I harvest my crop over 3 months, I can put a second crop while the greenhouse farmer is getting the yield, but it's staggered. But I can have a lump sum yield, then go back into the field again.
Thank you so much, Beauty. That was very detailed. On that note, viewers, we have come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. We are here in the third and final segment of your program, and this segment is specifically reserved for marketing issues. We are looking at agribusiness, and one way we need to emphasize or talk about more is marketing. After your production, you move on to marketing. That is what the value chain dictates in our agricultural fraternity. Beauty, we are here in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Beauty, generally when it comes to our cropping ventures, we have certain principles that we need to adhere to and follow to ensure that we curb post-harvest losses. Talk to our Zimbabwean farmer in terms of protecting their yield and guarding against their yield jealously.
So to me, I take farming as a business, especially horticulture farming. Definitely you need to make money. So we encourage farmers to make sure that before they embark on any production, they should be having their market. So remember, when it comes to the different markets, they are looking at the time of harvest that they require the crop. For example, you find some fruit and veg shops, they want a semi-ripe tomato. And when you talk of your local markets like Yombare Musika, they want a red, shiny tomato. So let's assume I'm one farmer. I've let my food go red, and now I approach the fruit and veg. They'll tell me that your product is overgrown or your product does not meet the specifications that they need. So we are saying to the farmers, make sure that you know what your market needs. And also some post-harvest clauses that we have, what that is, to say it's a day that you should start your harvesting. We encourage farmers to come in with their harvesting early morning or late evening. During the day, the sun will be burning And remember, this is a fruit. You are harvesting, you are putting in heaps, you come in, you do your grading, and you put in your different crates. So to farmers who are targeting your Mbare Musika or your fruit and veg, we encourage them to come in and do their grading as they are harvesting, so that you discourage the issue of double handling of the same fruit at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you so much, Beauty. Now, as I'm tasting this tomato, it's very juicy. I can tell that from the look of things, these are the ones that they use for beggars. But I want us to talk about the market expectations. Different markets have different expectations. What does the market expect? Mbare, supermarkets, vendors, what are they looking at to ensure that your product or your tomato looks beautiful and it attracts clients?
So what I can do is I'll categorize the markets. So I'll start with our processors. Processors, they're looking at a tomato, which have got high bricks, looking at bricks of 5 and above. And usually those varieties, they are blocky varieties. So that will be your market number 1. So farmers should know that if I want to do the processing industry so that we get our tomato sauce, we get our tomato puree, you're looking at those blocky varieties with high bricks. Then you come to the market like you're talking about, your Mbare Musika market. It is one market which is looking at a medium-sized tomato, 150 to 180 gram tomato. Because remember, whenever you're buying your tomatoes in a crate, you're looking at the number versus the size. So if you're a farmer who would target the mass market, always remember size is very important. But now going to our fruit and veg, they're looking at an average fruit of about 200 to 500 grams. They remember it's about the look.
Yes.
Me being a housewife, I wouldn't want to cut 4 tomatoes when preparing a meal. I would rather cut 1 tomato and prepare my meal. So those markets, they are now different because people are looking at buying the tomato for their table versus the Mbare Musika, where someone is buying the tomato to resell. And numbers there matters most. Then we have got also our last segment of market. We are looking at our hoteliers. And also you're looking for those markets which are doing their beggars. So the bigger the tomato, the better. So we are saying to farmers, at the end of the day, know what your market wants. So one farmer may come and complain that this tomato is too big for my market. It's not the tomato which is big, but it was a wrong placement of a tomato to a certain market.
Beauty, finally, we have come to the end of this rich, informative edition where we're looking at tomato production. Your final words, your parting words to those farmers here in Zimbabwe. I understand that as we were talking, some were taking notes. We also even have the youth that are unemployed and they are looking for profitable ventures that they can engage in so that they take care of themselves. Talk to them in terms of tomato production as we close.
Farmers, or those aspiring farmers, I would say to you, remember, if I'm to take you back to my kitchen today, you will definitely find a tomato. But if you ask me about the red cabbage, you might not find it. So this is one crop that you can grow and you're guaranteed that you will never miss a market. And always remember, make sure that you are looking at the peak where tomatoes are scarce. That's when you should come in. If you don't have a greenhouse to do all year round production, that's the time that you go to your Mzarabani, Chiredzi area to do your winter production and bring in the tomato where there are not a lot of tomatoes. And always remember, when everyone is planting, step back a bit and plant a month later. You will meet the right price at the markets.
Thank you so much, Beauty. You actually even addressed issues surrounding gluts and shortages, whereby at times our farmers end up being price takers. They don't have a voice when they go to the market. Thank you so much for permitting us time to hang out with you today on Agribusiness.
Thank you, Adza. Thank you, viewers.
There you had it, viewers. We're looking at tomato production from both perspectives, open field and greenhouse production. From me, your host, Danai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore. And the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.